Have you ever seen, or does anyone remember the old school coexist bumper stickers? Like, that's what an Aquarius is. Aquarius is like, let's just all do our thing and it's fine. It's not a big deal. Hello, we're here. We did it. We made it. Welcome to my second installment, which should be my third installment, but please see my previous videos and community posts about why I did not post in Venus in Capricorn season, but I am here for Venus in Aquarius. It is what this video is all about. So if you didn't know, I'm doing a Venus in transit series this year where we are going to follow Venus all the way through all of the Zodiac signs. I have 2 videos already about this. I have my journal set up. I also have the Venus in Sagittarius video that I posted late last year. Let's get into it. So Venus, I'll just do a quick rundown of what Venus represents. I'm gonna do this in every video. Venus is the planet of love, beauty, social graces, money, and creativity. Venus in the natal chart, which is your birth chart, represents romantic self, sensual self, style of creative expression, authentic taste, how one attracts and what one is attracted to, as well as our personal value system. And the sign it falls reflects its character. So this transit, as I said, is Venus in Aquarius. The period is between February 16th to March 11th. And I'm going to go ahead and read a little bit of a write-up between 2 different sources that I found. I'm going to link all of the sources below. I do create a prompt with all of this information every transit, and that will also be in the description box down below. This transit brings about a sense of optimism, friendliness, and sociability. We will want to experiment with relationships, romance, and money. This could even connect us with new friends who share our ideological views. Since Venus in Aquarius makes its own rules, there isn't a one-size-fits-all answer or way to communicate with others or how to invest our money. This will be a time in which we will want to seek different perspectives and embrace the unconventional as we use our minds rather than our hearts in matters of love. During this transition, spending time with free thinkers and rule breakers will appeal to our rebel hearts. Venus in Aquarius values the qualities of a best friend who can make them laugh and offer a shoulder to cry on at the same time. Its spirit of generosity towards others is unconditional, as this placement strives to bring people together and uplift them from despair. It holds a strong sense of community and makes us passionate about advocating for themselves and others. Venus in Aquarius takes pride in participating in charitable work and protest movements that align with their values. It is a supporter of the underdog and is always willing to lend a sympathetic ear to those in need of help. This year, Venus in Aquarius will have a more intense effect than its usual aloofness, as it will be aspecting Pluto and Mars. This will bring out a lot of sexy energy and make partnerships feel intoxicating, although we need to be careful not to misuse our power to control others. If we channel the full potential and good energy of this transit, we can revolutionize our love life and expectations in romance, and also contribute towards making the world a better place with TLC. Venus here is able to connect with everyone with impartiality and objectivity, and reminds us of the value of being open to the unusual, the unknown, and the unexpected. During this transit, detachment is a way through which we integrate our experience. At times, we may need to pull back and take some in order to rebalance and gain a neutral perspective of events. This is a particularly interesting time to observe our relationship to groups, group approval, group think, and conformity, and notice what patterns tend to come up when we relate with a group of people or within our communities. This is an opportunity to notice in what ways we may feel drawn to conform, appease, or give up our truth in exchange for group acceptance, validation, or an illusionary sense of belonging. So Aquarius is really interesting in the sense that it is very individualistic and also very community focused. And there's this dichotomy to Aquarius when it comes to that. Aquarius, like it said, is very compassionate towards others and wants to stand up for humanitarian efforts and like social justice, for example. But it also wants to challenge the status quo and groupthink. So it is going to play the devil's advocate sometimes. It is going to stand for things that may feel unconventional or maybe radical even. And what this is saying for us is that in the house that rules Venus for us, which I will get into in a moment, we need to look at that and maybe reassess our values, maybe reassess our expectations, our attachments, because Aquarius is also a sign that can be very unattached. And, in the shadow side, maybe in a bad way. But on the positive side, unattachment can be really liberating and really appropriate in certain times. And it also reminds you that you're here for yourself and that you need to be yourself in all ways. So I think it's a really interesting time. Venus in Aquarius is I would say, it's a placement with a bad reputation, but it doesn't have to be. I think that there are, evolved, mature versions of any placement, and then there are more base, primitive versions of a placement. And you can embody that based off of your emotional intelligence, your emotional maturity, So I would say some keywords for Venus in Aquarius are humanity, unconventionality, companionship, and originality. I also pick a handful. This time it's probably more than a handful because I was just excited by a lot of the people that I saw. But a handful of celebrities that have this placement. And you can see when I'm about to list these celebrities that there is a lot of human rights involved. There is a lot of science fiction, which is really interesting. There are a lot of artists, who use their expression. There are people who broke barriers, who have had, personal things happen to them and have been kind of social justice and civil rights warriors in their own personal life due to things that have happened in their families or in their lives. And then you even have a couple of children's authors that were honestly like revolutionary children's authors. So, okay, I'll go ahead and list them, and then I'd love to hear your thoughts below. Aretha Franklin, Eddie Izzard, Anna May Wong, Sammy Davis Jr., Paris Hilton, Quentin Tarantino, LeBron James, Taylor Swift, Chris Rock, Oprah Winfrey, Harry Styles, Marlena Dietrich, Sissy Spacek, Tom Waits, Stephen Hawking, Judy Blume, Dr. Seuss, Yoko Ono, Brian Jones, Janis Joplin, Elton John, Eartha Kitt, LeVar Burton, Desi Arnaz, Nina Simone, William Shatner, and Leonard Nimoy. So there were about 2,000 on the website, and those were the ones that I chose. I didn't get through the whole list. So if I missed someone that has a Venus in Aquarius, comment down below, because that would be really interesting to know. I also picked a couple tarot cards to represent Venus in Aquarius. We have the Fool, the Star, and the Page of Swords. So the Star is the major arcana that's traditionally associated with Aquarius. Aquarius is the water bearer, and it's also about wishes fulfilled. about dreams, and I can definitely see the Aquarius energy in the star. The Fool is also a card that I chose for Sagittarius, but I think it really applies to Aquarius as well. I think Aquarius has a certain amount of confidence to go for things and, you know, be the odd one out in the way that they think and maybe in the way that they behave. And that takes us a certain fearlessness or a lack of knowing all the potential bad things that could come of that. It's more important to express yourself and to like step forward into the unknown than it is to doubt and fear, you know. And then the Page of Swords, the Aquarius is always the free thinker, the learner, the student of philosophy, the student of even, you know, science and space and things like that. Like the Aquarius always feels like the alien of the Zodiac, they always say. So I know there are more to these, but I encourage you to use your own definitions of the card to reflect on what Venus and Aquarius energy could embody for you during this period. In the next section, I have book recommendations for Venus and Aquarius. I'll go through those now. The first one is Sea of Tranquility by Emily St. John Mandel. The author of Station 11 and The Glass Hotel returns with a breathtaking work of speculative fiction that will satisfy your desire for a uniquely compelling read. From the wild Canadian forests of 1912 to the second colony of the moon 400 years later to a place called Night City, Mandel's writing travels through time and space. The second book recommendation I have is called Neruda on the Park. It's by Clavis Natera. It's a debut novel that tells the story of characters living in social tension and the personal conflicts that arise when a tenement building is demolished and slated to be replaced by luxury condos in New York City's Nother Park. Might be Nother Park? I don't know New York City very well. Where the Guerreros have lived for 20 years, the community takes the threat of gentrification into their own hands. Community elder Eusebia leads this resistance, but meanwhile her daughter Luz becomes romantically involved with the handsome white developer at the company Eusebia hates so much. Next up is Radical Curiosity by Seth Goldenberg. Goldenberg believes curiosity has become rare as we live in a culture that values knowledge over questions and action more than thought. Through 7 lenses, learning, cohesion, time, youth, aliveness, nature, and value, he unpacks current narratives and displays the type of questioning he is asking of his readers. His practice of radical curiosity may forever change the way you think and ask questions. Next is The Midnight Library by Matt Haig. Nora Seed travels to the outer edges of the universe, to the Midnight Library, with its infinite books of alternative realities. These books will tell her the stories of the lives she might have lived, if only she'd made different choices. Nora has some decisions to make. Should she go back to undo old breakups or allow for a different career path, exchanging her old life for an entirely new one? As she explores the infinite number of possible worlds she could choose, she has to reckon with what truly matters in life. And then we have Lessons in Chemistry by Bonnie Garmis. This is now a TV show. I believe it's on Apple TV. Elizabeth Zott is a chemist who falls in love with a colleague at the Hastings Research Institute in the early 1960s. When a few years later she becomes a single parent, she reluctantly takes an opportunity to star on Supper at 6, a beloved cooking show. Her chemist's approach to cooking proves unorthodox and her show's audience grows. But as it becomes apparent that she's teaching women to challenge the status quo, not only to cook, not everyone is pleased about her success. Marin Yearly is a young woman who wants the same things we all do. She wants to be someone people admire and respect. She wants to be loved. But her secret, shameful needs have forced her into exile. She hates herself for the bad things she does, for what she's done to her family and her sense of identity, for how it dictates her place in the world and how people see her and how they judge her. She didn't choose to be this way. Because Marin Yearly doesn't just break hearts, she devours them. I'm really excited about this one. It's called Lima Limon. It's by Natalie Centers Zapico. Natalie Centers Zapico's second poetry collection is a lyrical exploration of the intersection between gender roles and desire on the US-Mexico border. Set within the liminal geography of the poet's hometowns of Ciudad Juarez, Chihuahua, and El Paso, Texas, Lima Limon fiercely questions machismo, Marianismo, cultural norms that give way to gender violence and a blind eye turned to femicide. Drawing imagery and characters from songs commonly played in households along the border, Centers Zapico considers with fairy tale strangeness how women live through violence to create a culture of their own, inside and outside of the domestic. In these poems, a speaker's body transforms from flesh to wall to bug to bed with the kind of magic it takes to survive what wants to kill you. Lima Limon makes the invisible visible, creating a loving tribute to women, ancestors, and all those whose labors of resilience go unsung. And lastly, I have The Book of Lost Things by John Connolly. High in his attic bedroom, 12-year-old David mourns the death of his mother with only the books on his shelf for company. But those books have begun to whisper to him in the darkness. Angry and alone, he takes refuge in his imagination and soon finds that reality and fantasy have begun to meld. While his family falls apart around him, David is violently propelled into a world that is a strange reflection of his own, populated by heroes and monsters and ruled by a fated king who keeps his secrets in a mysterious book, the Book of Lost Things. Next is the most exciting part, right? The deck recommendations. Let me grab them for you. I'm going to do the tarot decks first, and then we'll go into some oracles. Okay, obviously the first deck is the Japaridze Tarot by Nino Japaridze. I mean, that's all how I've always heard it pronounced, but honestly, every time I say it, I don't feel like it's right. But this is a deck, I believe the lore to this deck is that this person lost their partner and started painting, and it's just going through the dreams and the grief of loss. Oh, it does say it here. How funny. I am definitely not the first person to discover this. I just haven't used this deck very much yet, so this might be a really great time to do so. Japaridze. Yeah, close enough. Okay, so I see this type of art and the colors and the dream-like feeling, the very kind of heady feeling of this art as very Aquarius. It feels like an air deck to me. And as you can see, like, the illustrations can be really different, and that's because, you know what, I'm gonna do it my favorite way. Every time I've seen or heard anyone talk about how this is the way that Meg shows her decks, and that I have, probably just because I've copied her, I really love that. Okay, but do you see that there's a lot of variance in the art style? And that's because it took a really long time to finish this deck, right? But it really is a masterpiece. Dang, I have not used this at all. Let me know if you have ever used this in your daily practice, or, you know, just your regular practice. If you've ever done a deep dive with this deck, because I would love to know what it felt like for you. What kind of things came out of it, if it was surprising. But this feels like a very outsider, thinking outside the box, like very creative, unconventional thinking and living type of deck. So I definitely thought of Aquarius when I saw it. That is the Japaridze Tarot. Okay, the next one might be a surprise, but it is the Wild Unknown. This is the first deck I ever got. I think I'm in good company. A lot of people have the same experience. And I know that there's a darkness to this deck, but I see a lot of, I mean, okay, let's back up. I'm a huge fan of animal decks, and I know a lot of people don't consider this deck an animal deck because there's a lot more to it. It's not just animals, etc. It's less like about realism and things like that. This deck is very cerebral to me and spiritual in a sense. So I think it fits really well with an air sign. And Aquarius is kind of the edgiest of the air signs, and I can see that in this deck. I think that the rainbows really lend themselves to an Aquarius vibe as well. But when I see these things, and maybe this is just because I used it in the past when I did more of my, you know, emotion processing through like intellectualizing my emotions, but I see that in this deck. So I think that this could really work for an Aquarius deck. I really, yeah, I see it. I dig it. I don't know if you can, but let me know what vibe you get from this. But I think this is a great example because this is a deck that's like easily accessible and affordable, and a lot of people already own it. So if you're looking to, you know, connect with Aquarius energy, this is a good option. Okay, the Golden Eclipse Tarot. So this is obviously a good pick for maybe any zodiac sign, but I don't know. I get Aquarius or maybe just air sign. I feel like it is one of those. We're literally looking at the stars. We're looking up to the sky. There is this feeling of Greek mythology in here, obviously not with this Hierophant. I don't know what it is specifically about this deck, but yeah, maybe it's the combination of different cultures and ideologies being represented here. Like it feels a little bit shamanistic. It feels like astrology. There, obviously with the Hierophant was some traditional tarot, like Catholicism in there. Not that tarot's Catholicism, but there is Catholic or Christian imagery and symbolism in like the 1909 RWS. We've got some sacred geometry. There's like hints at animism. So it's kind of that feeling. I feel like Aquarius is, have you ever seen, or does anyone remember the old school coexist bumper stickers? Like that's what an Aquarius is. Aquarius is like, let's just all do our thing and it's fine. It's not a big deal. I haven't worked with this deck yet either. I got this from a Kickstarter. And I don't know, I've been busy. Life's been busy. But yeah, I definitely get Aquarius vibes from this. I think it's cool. And if you use this, it's definitely a contender for your Venus and Aquarius practice this year. Next is the Tenebrae Tarot. I'm biased when it comes to this. I'm an air sign. I feel like this is, I don't know, it feels like an air sign deck. And then I was thinking like, my second choice would be like an earth sign deck, but honestly it kind of has everything. Like it has everything in it because I'm thinking like there's water, there's fire, but the fact that it's in black and white and that it has really interesting and, in my opinion, very unique definitions on the cards feels very Aquarius to me. It really takes a stand. It has these beautiful images of people being expressive and creative. This deck reminds me of the arts and theater. But it also really is like, it's almost like anthropological, you know, which I think that's why I can see this as an Aquarius deck. It's showing a history of humanity in like a snapshot of like a certain part of our history and a certain part of our civilization. and what goes into that. You know, you've got architecture and sculpture, and you've got theater. I know I said theater. It looks like performance art, and I don't know, it feels like this deck was taken, like pictures taken in like some artist colony or something, you know, which is definitely like an alternative way of life. But I think this would be a good option as well. That's the Tenebrae. The Queer Revolution Tarot. What's more radical? What's more freeing and liberating and unconventional than living your truth despite, you know, the laws in the world usually going against your existence, and, you know, making or maintaining negative stereotypes about your relationship to relationships, or your relationship to sex, or the way you live your life, and everyone having an opinion about it. I think that aesthetically this feels very Aquarius, and I think that subject-wise, you don't have to be queer for this to apply, because it's a very Venus in Aquarius characteristic to fight for people who are denied their existence, who are oppressed, who are marginalized, who are constantly facing, you know, physical, mental, emotional danger in their lives. And I know it's less so now, but it's still there, you know. So I feel like on a humanitarian level and on a level of living authentically, uniquely, and defining your own rules. Aquarius is looking at things and being like, do we have to do it that way? Do we have to have relationships in the way that everyone thought we did? No, we don't. We don't have to. Do we have to grind 24/7 and work 9 to 5s at desks? No, we don't need to do that. I think that this deck is a really good representation of that. All right, so this is a good spacey example of Aquarius, in my opinion. Very artful, very airy, and another kind of cerebral. We're just going cerebral because that's what Aquarius does. So this is the Invisible Light Tarot, and it is a photography deck. Again, this could be social outcasts, a circle of friends that live in the desert, you know. There's a lot of psychology going on here. There's a lot of open space for breathing, for thinking, for processing, for challenging norms. It's a breath of fresh air. It's something different than, you know, the day-to-day. If this is your day-to-day, that's so cool, but this is not the day-to-day that I know. Always images that show humanity, that show faces, that show people, because I think Aquarius is always asking, who are we as people? What do we need? What do we deserve? What do we fight for? What do we believe in? And who am I? And am I think, honestly, a question that Aquarius, especially Venus and Aquarius, has for themselves a lot is, am I an island? You know, do I need others? But do they appreciate others in the company? You know, like the synopsis said, Aquarius will be there for anyone who needs a shoulder to cry on, and they also will always appreciate, you know, a good laugh. And if you're funny and you can stimulate them intellectually, they can definitely withstand any of the emotional or hard times that you may be going through. So when I talk about Aquarius in that way, the way that you can filter that through the lens of Venus and Aquarius is that like those are the things that you will be valuing right now. And once I'm done with decks, I will show you the spread that I have, and then I will tell you about the houses and what part of your life you can be looking at during this time. Okay, so we obviously have the Dang Olsen Dream Tarot, because how could I not? This is kind of Aquarius embodied. So like so playful, joyful, fun. All of these figures, they don't have, like some of them don't have faces. They're not colored in a way that makes them a certain, you know, gives us an association to like a certain race or ethnicity or heritage or nationality, which is really cool. It's like they're all equal, they're all equally weird, they're all you know, reveling in their freedom, their vitality, and their lives, you know. And there's still room for a lot of mental stuff going on, if you can see in the swords. It has some extra cards in here too. But, you know, it's kind of like a fun house, madhouse situation. But I think that's an important aspect of Aquarius. So that's the Dang Olsen Dream Tarot. Okay, so I have 3 oracles to show you. Well, the first is actually a Lenormand, but you can use it as an oracle. It's Grandma Baby's Black Gold Lenormand 2. I did film a walkthrough of this maybe like a month ago or a month and a half ago. I haven't posted it because I feel really sensitive about it. You know, I'm a white woman, and this is a deck that's deeply rooted in Black history and the Black experience. And when I was reading the write-ups for these cards, it got really deep, obviously. This is a magical deck, and I definitely want to keep it because it's really moving and really important, and I don't know, I just love it. I love it so, so much. But I don't know, I have this like weird guilt about, should I be reading this for me? Like, I obviously wouldn't read it for friends. I don't know. I mean, I have friends that are people of color. If they requested it, I would read for them. But I don't know if I'd read for my white friends with it. Like, I don't, it's just, I don't know how to feel. I honestly don't know how to feel. But I do know how I feel about this deck. And I'm sorry, I'm going on a tangent. This deck is like quintessentially an Aquarius, humanitarian, civil rights, you know, not repeating history type of deck. It's also very heavily religious in the write-ups, which doesn't bother me. I'm not personally religious or Christian, but I still think that I can take the lessons and messages from passages like that and use them for my own life, or, you know, apply them or interpret them, you know, take what resonates, leave the rest type of thing. This is an incredible deck. This is not available anymore. Unfortunately, this shop closed in the new year. And I think that this is a great deck for me to use during Aquarius season. So maybe I will just use it for that. I don't know. Let me know what your thoughts are on this. But I really do. This is such an amazing deck. I really wanted to feature it. And I will eventually post my walkthrough of this too, because I want it to be out there. I want it to be online. I want people to see it. It's incredibly special. The Death Doula Oracle. There's something about this deck. There's something about Mary. I don't know, the thinking and feeling that these images do for me. I think that everybody has their own feelings about this deck, but I think that it fits right into our Venus and Aquarius energies that we've been talking about. I think that visually it's really cool, and also a change up from, you know, some of the other decks that I've shown you for this period. And I think that the keywords are really applicable to, you know, themes of this period as well. Kind of like challenging sometimes. And it's all about, you know, the human experience, which is, I keep saying, but like it's what Aquarius is about, you know? So I think this is a good one. And the last deck I have for you is the Music Oracles. There are countless musicians who have Venus in Aquarius, and musicians tend to forge their own path, and they have to believe in themselves enough and think outside the box enough and go against status quo enough to, you know, make it usually in this industry. So I thought it was really important to share. We have a Venus in Aquarius queen here, Janis Joplin. This is a great oracle. I know that the love oracles has gotten a lot of criticism, and I think it's for really good reason too. But that being said, this one, I don't have that issue with at all. It's really, really good. I always really resonate and enjoy the write-ups in this. So good. And these are, you know, free thinkers. The Iggy Pop one always kills me. Lou Reed is also a Venus in Aquarius. I did not write him down because I am not a huge fan of Lou Reed, but as a person, music-wise, chill. But I had been reading We Got the Neutron, no, not We Got the Neutron Bomb. That's the West Coast punk book. Oh, it was Please Kill Me. And it's about punk in New York and stuff. And they talk about Lou Reed and Iggy Pop and everybody. And these are like first-hand accounts, or no, second-hand accounts, I guess, of like people witnessing. I mean, sometimes people will like talk about themselves in the book too. It's an oral history, but everything that's said about Lou Reed just like makes me want to rage. It makes my blood boil. Okay, so those are the decks that I chose. And then I will show you the spread. So I chose a spread by MoonMamaOracle. I found this spread on Pinterest, and it's 6 cards. I'll show you the picture here. So the first card represents your energy as you enter into this transit. The second card is how you view romance and freedom together. The third card is how you view romance and uniqueness together. The fourth card is what your perspective on those topics say about you. The fifth card is how you can expand your views this season. And the sixth card is Venus in Aquarius advice from your guides. So I thought this would be really fun and interesting. Let me know if you do try this spread out and the results that you got. Okay, so that's it for all of my prompts and recommendations, and what I'm going to show you is how to find what house Aquarius rules in your chart. So this is what the house system looks like. There are 2 main house systems that I have used. One is the Placidus. That is like the default for a lot of apps like CoStar. If you go to astro.com, which I will link below so that you can create your birth chart. Placidus is cool, but it's confusing, because if you have a circle with the 12 signs evenly like spaced little pie slices, right? And then you have the houses, and the houses are on the outside of like the signs, and they don't line up exactly. I'll show you an example. This is my chart, and I feel like this is your brain on drugs. No, this is my chart with the Placidus house system. Do you see how the houses don't match up with the lines of each zodiac sign? Now, this is my house with whole signs. So you can choose this option in different apps. You can choose this option on astro.com. I'll show you images of how to get there. When you're using a whole sign house system, it means that the houses line up exactly with all of those little pie slices. So it's easy to see which zodiac sign is associated with which house in your chart. Okay, secondly, if you look for your rising sign, aka your first house, you will see that sets all of the other houses. So in different words, your rising is always going to be the first house. So that's what dictates the rest of your houses. So if you're looking at a horoscope that is for the day or the month or for a certain transit, you should probably be looking at your rising sign and not your sun sign. Because if they're talking about an area in your life that's being affected, they're talking about the house that is determined by your rising. I know that sounds kind of confusing, but it's simpler than it sounds. For example, I am a Leo rising, so Leo rules my first house. If I follow the houses along down to Aquarius, Aquarius rules my 7th house. So this specific transit is going to play out most in my 7th house. The 7th house representing relationships, marriage, contracts, business partners, equality, sharing, and interpersonal style. So a lot of that overlaps with Venus's energy in the first place. So this transit might be more prominent or intense for me than it would other people because it's affecting my house of relationships, and Venus is kind of the relationship planet. I'll show you another example. This person has a Sagittarius rising. So their Aquarius is in their 3rd house. 3rd house is the mind, thinking, communication, siblings, social activity, interests, neighbors, and early education. So their Venus and Aquarius transit effects will play out in that part of their life mostly. So when we're rethinking relationships, when we're rethinking groupthink or status quo or social justice or humanitarianism, those things are going to be spotlighting their thinking, their communication, their siblings, their social activity, their neighbors. So it's not necessarily going to be a lot of reassessing or redefining things in relationships. It might not be a lot of reassessing or redefining in career or job or health or romance. It's mostly focused on the topics I listed. I'll do one more. I hope this is making sense. Okay, this person is a Libra rising. So their Aquarius is in the 5th house. The 5th house rules romance, love, affairs, play, creativity, fertility, childlike spirit, joy, self-expression, and drama. Again, another house that probably is intensifying this Venus and Aquarius because it encapsulates love and creativity, etc., just like Venus does. So I guess what you can kind of surmise from this is if Aquarius rules a house in your chart that is kind of Venus adjacent, meaning like it has similar energies to Venus, then that means that this Venus transit might be a little bit more significant for you. If you have Aquarius in a house that doesn't really sound like Venus when you're thinking about, what it rules, for example, the 12th house, which is endings, healing, closure, solitude, spirituality, afterlife, old age, subconscious. That doesn't sound like Venus at all, right? Or the 8th house, merging, sex, intimacy, shared finances, inheritances. That could be kind of Venus-y because it has money, but it sounds more like, you know, Pluto or Saturn. You know, all of these houses are also have a natural ruler. I'm not going to get into all that. Astrology can get complicated. I'm trying to make it simple for you for these transits. If you have Aquarius in the 6th house of health, fitness, systems, analytical nature, pets, work habits, this Venus in transit, this transit might not be a huge deal for you. You might not feel the effects very much. I hope that's making sense. If you have any questions, or if you want me to figure out what house your Aquarius is in, feel free to reach out to me. I hope this has been helpful. I want to thank you for coming along on this journey. I was going to post this video in my members only section, but since I have been absent and this video will be probably going up on the first day of Venus in Aquarius, I will be posting this out to everyone, to the public. But please know that if you want to get these videos early, and I might do a journal update next month, you might get, you know, the video 3 to 4 days earlier, then please join my membership if you're interested. There are more perks and you can learn more about that in the link in the description box below. I want to thank you for being here. Thanks for being curious. Thanks for being my friend. My mom's coming. I gotta go.